Here we go. Course is starting. We're about to be going into chapter 1 at the sound of this ting, 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 ting. No, seriously, here we go. You ready? Here we are. I'm your host. I'm Andrew's Method. We're here looking at the Catalina. It's a pretty cool desktop here. It changes. It's like a dynamic desktop. It'll change and it'll get darker throughout the day, and even at nighttime the sun will go down. So what I want to do is pull up chapter 1. All right. This is how to be successful in trucking, and we're just going to go ahead and start getting straight into it. Okay. We got quite a lot of ground to cover, but it's all good. We'll get through it, and I'll commentate my own book and make sure that we get along through it and that it is something that's valuable and usable. And yeah, so let's go ahead and get started. Let me pull out. So we have the crown, we have the eagle on top here, how to be successful in trucking with the big reef and the arrow. Got this old blueprint of like a 6-cylinder piston motor deal. And here in blue it says, I wish I had all of this information when I started in trucking. So this right here, this is the original cover that I was going with during the writing process. Pretty cool little cover, you know, got the background and smiling, mytruckingtradesecrets.com, which still does work. We got the Conestoga. We got a disclaimer here, of course, and copyright notice. So here's the table of contents. We'll be going through this, of course, in detail. So right now we're at this stop number 1, a week in my shoes. So let's proceed. This is a picture right here, one of my pictures that I had at the time. And this is the preface, otherwise known as the calibration station. Right? So when I was writing this, I felt a need to make a calibration station, I suppose. So, because I like to be able to have that option to get to know who I'm learning from. So that's what I provided here, you know. So it says here in the big blue bold letters, get to know me. A wise man will tell you that ultimately he knows nothing, and I'm here to say the same. I don't know everything either. With that said, let's slow it down a little bit. Who am I? I am a man, a long-time owner-operator, and also author of How to Be Successful in Trucking. So I take this responsibility with honor. Thank you for hiring me to deliver you this service. It took me quite a while to get here, and it will take a little while to teach it all too. But do not worry, we will move as quick as we can. They say good things take time, right? Yeah. So let's just go forward through this. One thing about me, I come from an upbringing of respect. So in my world, in order to get respect, I first had to casually give it and understand it. I got help so much as a kid because I knew how to respect. I knew at a young age that I had to be stand up and good at what I do. Right? Stand up and good at what I do. Upright, right? So when it comes to learning life, I would really only learn from certain individuals that I looked up to. Let's just say I've had a high standard on what I received as relevant over the years. And my father, he was the same way with me. I had to outperform. No excuses, no being lazy, no making a mess, keep on getting better and better, and etc. Come to find out, what he was teaching me actually was the foundation to common sense. This common sense is the heavy weight that keeps us grounded in this fast-spinning world. Without developing common sense, this world can spin us right off. Okay, so here in yellow, highlighted, I say, collecting only relevant information to what you want is key. I'll say that again. Collecting only relevant information to what it is that you want is a very nice key to have. because we're kind of like, computers and humans are kind of similar in the sense that we have hard drive spaces, so to speak, and how, we can really only hold and retain so much information. So that's where this comes in. We'll talk about it more as we go. But I say collecting too much irrelevant information, and anything can be irrelevant. It's just if it's irrelevant to your operation and what it is that you're building, and that's once you know what it is and or have a good idea, especially then more so. But collecting too much irrelevant info can slow us down. When we learn from the people that we respect, we are collecting their energy and their knowledge. Right? Their energy and their knowledge. I think this is one of the fastest and most efficient ways to learn. By listening, you get to share in their true experiences, right? And with social media and YouTube set up the way it is now, we can literally study almost anybody that we respect and on demand. This is especially good for us who are entrepreneurs in soul. We can now study the mentality and the moves that the successful individuals make. With enough studying, we can install these learned mentalities straight into our own way of thinking. This makes our process to success so much faster if used correctly, in my opinion. All right. So this is also very true with many other aspects in life. If we want something enough, we can get to the information, to the truth, and to the studies of almost anything that we want to know and learn, right? So another thing about respect and success that I learned is respect and success is first created from within our own mind and feelings using these factors, right? We're right here right now. These four right here in red. Number one, the self-producing image that we create for ourselves, the operating system that we choose, which is our codes and ethics, values, morals, and etc. How well we perform, like how well are we actually producing, and how well do we handle different types of pressure. These four things, these four factors here are playing a big role into respect and success from the very beginning. This all happens from within ourselves. The self-producing image we create, the operating system we choose, how well we perform, and how well we handle pressure. Different types of pressure too. So I think it's always here in blue. I think it's always important to make sure the source of my knowledge is of good character, positive character, right? I like to make sure my sources are people that actually produce in real life what they say and talk to me about. Information must go through a pretty strict clearing process with me before I accept it as true. This just came from necessity and from the life experience, right? So my knowledge also comes from the places I've lived, the places that I've been to, my constant studies about life, and also from my collective true experiences that I've gathered and collected from others. One thing for sure is one must be careful when it comes to information, right? All right, let me double check this recording. Hello? Yeah, looks good. All right, cool. As we can see here, information is only as good as its source, right? In many cases. So then we go on beyond that to information versus facts being one of the battles. So we got a lot of information, then we need to see, what's the facts of the information. Because, see, even in trucking, right, we are constantly faced with a lot of information that often gets us stuck. Stuck trying to figure out which way to go and which way not to go. It can take a long time in trucking to gain the relevant facts that we need to be successful in creating the operation of our choice. All right, so then we go on to right here in red. It says, just because something is a fact doesn't necessarily mean that it's a relevant fact for your operation, though. All right, so that's something important to remember going forward, right? There's a ton of facts, but once we get more goal-oriented and focus on the exact operation that we want to run, then certain facts just kind of become irrelevant to your operation. It doesn't mean that there's like a bad thing or a good thing or whatever. It's just an irrelevant fact. So that's just something to remember going forward. That just I don't like to, at least, hold on to all these just extra facts if it's not relevant to what it is that I'm doing. I do what I can to, but you can only save so much information up top, right? So I built this first chapter so you can take a ride with me, in quotation marks, so you can see what it's like firsthand. Yep. And see for yourself and decide if what I produce and how I do it is something that you want to do for yourself. Okay? So if you've already purchased H2ST, thank you. So this is more so, at the time of writing this, and even at the time of doing this recording, I'm thinking about letting this chapter 1 be a public download. So this is also a showcase chapter for everybody else to see what's going on and what it is that we're doing here at H2ST. So excuse me. All right, so here in the blue, just got a quick little disclaimer. I say, yes, I stress something slightly dramatic, LOL, but I mean well. I may sound stern at times or self-serving, but that's because we have a lot of ground to cover, and it's not all easy and not many people get through. So my intention is not to talk down or to hurt feelings, so I am telling you right now, I'm telling you the same way that I had to teach myself, right? Kind of like on the hard side. But this business is tough, but yes, very doable, right? So I go on to say one more here. Though I may sound real picky through my book, I am actually very open-minded. Just real particular when it comes to trucking in this business, I guess. That's what I wrote at the time. So I know what I know, and I know that my book has contained in it some of the most helpful and coolest collection of trucking business information available. It also carries in it the bonus mentality and life hacks that I share too, right? I like to do that too, because a lot of this is really just mentality, which is a true trademark of mine. Cool. All right. So now we're getting into the trucking, my friend. And with S, my friends, right? So here in the red, there's a lot of questions when it comes to trucking. Should I get my own authority? How would I do it? Where's the information at so I can study? Who knows how to do this already? And who can I ask? This is the urgency that I noticed. And eventually I realized that I would fill this void, or this void to be filled by me. So my book contains years worth of success and also years worth of lessons learned from my mistakes. I had to find most of this out the hard way through my own ambition of trial and error, like many of us, right? Chapter 1 sets the mood. It catches us up to speed with what I'm doing now, the methods that I'm using, the mentality that I'm using, the money that I'm making, the choices I'm faced with, and the decisions that I make. Do what you can not to rush, read, and take your time, right? That's what I said. I may not have much more than a high school education. I don't know why I felt like saying that, but I have been an entrepreneur my entire adult life. I've experienced 10 years in trucking, and 9 of those have been on the business side, more like 10 and 11 now. I went very hard over this time and have had many ups and downs to talk about. So make sure that you don't repeat the same mistakes I already had to make, right? I'm going to say that one more time here. Say that again at least. Just do what you can to make sure that you don't have to repeat the same mistakes that I already had to make. Because these mistakes they cost us in money and they cost us in time. So this book right here would have at least got me, this course, the book and the course all together would have at least got me like 5 years ahead, where I could have skipped about 5 years worth of mistakes that I was doing in the beginning. So here we go. Take a walk with me. Let me bring you into this world. The gems will start now. Exclamation point and the smiley face guy with his eyes closed and his teeth. So here we go. Chapter 1. Each chapter is having its own, cover like this, so that's pretty cool. Adds more of a, like an art value to it, something more to it, more of a collector's edition. So we got this chapter 1, A Week in My Shoes. Here, this is me overlooking in Vicksburg, Mississippi, looking into the Mississippi River. All right, chapter 1 officially starts now. Oops, sorry, I'm not talking into my other microphone. I'm talking into this microphone. Perfect. So, chapter 1 is officially starting now. A Week in My Shoes. Chapter 1, A Week in My Shoes. Here we go. Wednesday, 4:30 a.m. So, it's a Wednesday. So, we got all of Wednesday, all of Thursday to be delivered Friday morning. So, we can catch a reload Friday morning, be loaded for over the weekend. So, we got about 48 hours from the point where I'm waking up. My clock is set for 5 a.m., but I awake early as I usually do when I'm leaving from hometown. Something about getting back on the road excites me to the point where if I wake early, I find it difficult to go back to sleep, and I usually decide to get a head start so I don't have to rush as much. Here in red, I have highlighted rushing is not good. Some of the biggest mistakes I've made happened when I allowed myself to get into too much of a rush. Anything past a modest rush can really increase the chances of making what? A mistake. And in this business, making mistakes can mean points on our license, damaging our equipment, hurting ourselves or others, missing our exit, or something simple that will cost us money, and etc. I'm pretty sure that you can use your imagination when it comes to rushing, right? So I'm going to say I've been home for about 5 weeks. So at the time of when I started when I documented this week, and when I documented this week, that's how I got this whole process started. Writing h2st.org was documenting this first week. So at the time I started this, I've been home for 5 weeks. I hadn't hauled any loads, truck driving for 5 weeks, and this is pretty normal. Like right now, I've been home for about 3. So I've been home for about 5 weeks, enjoying my home time, and we even visited Grand Canyon, which was amazing. Was and is. I got a lot of minor work and upgrades done on my truck. I think I installed the brake safe and did a couple other things, put some shocks on my truck and trailer. Fixed some hurricane damage around my property and received about 10 checks from loads I did on my last go around. 10 checks from loads I did on my last go around, and etc. I booked yesterday this load from Fort Polk, Louisiana to Fort Bragg, North Carolina. Here highlighted in green, in big letters, I say we made a deal for $3,500 on about 1,000 miles. 3,500, 1,000 miles. 1,000 times 3.5. 1,000 times 3, 3,000. 1,000 times 2, 2,000. So about $350 a mile. 3,500 in parentheses here, 3,500 divided by 1,000 miles is going to equal 3.5. So on a calculator, it's real easy to just put in 3,500 and just divide it by 1,000. And that's for every load. Whatever the rate is divided by the miles in the calculator, that's how you're going to get your rate per mile. If you want to do it, do the math on it yourself on any on any load. If for some reason you're not having, because truckstop.com will usually have rate per mile on it. Yep. So, but if you want to just double check or add in deadhead, so that's what we're just saying. That's what we're covering right now. So I go on to say I did have a 150 mile deadhead. So 3,500 divided by 1,150 miles, right? 1,000 plus my deadhead is still $3.04 for all miles. Right. Still pretty well considering that I'm delivering to the Fayetteville, North Carolina area, I-95, which is not a bad reload area once we factor in Durham, Raleigh, Greenville, Wilmington, Florence, Myrtle Beach, all being as close as they are, right? Pretty decent area to be on a Friday for the money I made going out at the time. So here in blue, I say I plan to make about $3,125 on this load in the next 2 days. Well, I'll generate it. I won't see this money for a little bit later because I bill my customers out net 30, but this is how much I made though. And how do I do that? We'll see in just a second. Here's my rate sheet, my rate con for this load. Military pieces, 40,000 pounds, but it was actually less, more like 25-ish. Yeah, so we got this. I just realized I got this phone number on here. Please don't call this number. Don't call this number. These are guys working on the base. I got most of this inked out, but we'll see. We got this 3,500 here. Let's keep it moving. So now we're breaking down the 3,100 number real quick. It's really simple how I got this number. First, I find out how much I'm spending on fuel. All right. So I take my empty miles of 150 and I plus my loaded miles of 1,000, and that gives me 1,150. And this can all be done on like cell phone calculators. This is how I usually do it on my Galaxy phone. Next, I divide 1,150 total miles, which is the number we just got, right? So I divide those 1,150 total miles by 6 miles per gallon because that's my average miles per gallon that I get. So whatever it is, if you're getting 7 miles per gallon and you notice to be accurate, or if you're getting like 7.5, and that's what it is when you do the math from filling up at the pump, which is, you fill your tanks all the way up, and you reset your odometer, drive all the miles, and you take those miles and you fill your pump, your tanks all the way back up the same way. So you take all those miles and divide it by the gallons you put in to get, more like actual mile per gallon. So I just leave mine at 6, even though I'm usually getting like 6.5, 7. So that'll be low estimation on the low side. So that 31 number will be more probably like 31.50, 31.75, right? So that's where the 6 comes from. So let's backtrack it one more time. So we got the empty miles of 150 plus the loaded miles of 1,000, so that equals 1,150. I'm divide that one number by 6 miles per gallon, which is just divide by 6, which gives me the number 192, which is gallons, right? 192 gallons of fuel will be needed. So I just take the gallons and I multiply it by whatever the cost of fuel is. So at the time of this writing, it was $1.95. So that's $375. So now that we know how much we're spending on fuel, which was just the total amount of gallons times the fuel cost, right? And we got the gallons from the miles divided by miles per gallon, MPG. So we take the total 3,500 and we subtract out our fuel, 375, which equals 31.25. And since there are no tolls on this route, a good estimation of simple profit, which is without other expenses, simple profit is a term that I call what I'm making after I spend on fuel. So it's simple profit, but we know it's not complete profit because there's other numbers to crunch out of it as we go. But you'll see like later on, especially once you get to the end of like having a paid off equipment and a lower overhead at home, like you don't really have so much crazy unpredictable or such a high fixed cost. So simple profit becomes more of a simple profit, right? And then we just break out whatever we need out of this money to pay the fixed expenses like insurance and 2290s and IFTAs and etc., right? Some of the maintenances, right? Maintenances, yeah, I put an S on it. So here we go. So 31.25. That's how we get that number, right? Let's keep it moving. But basically, like I said, we just had total miles divided by MPG, which gives us gallons. Gallons times the cost of fuel. The cost of fuel minus out the total gross. That's how much money we're making per load. Simple profit. It's all right here in the book to review back. So let me make sure I'm still recording. We've been recording for 24 minutes, so let's go ahead and kick up the speed a little bit. All right. Then here in blue, right? Then you could take this number and divide it by the amount of days it took to run it and see what you made per day and use it to gauge your income, negotiations, decision making, and etc. So for example, this is 3,100, so let's just take this down to 3,000. So 3,000 divided by 2 would be about $1,500 a day. So not bad. Everything's already packed. My tools are loaded up in my truck. I always do this definitely the day or two. It's usually a process for me to get ready to go back on the road, but I always make sure that most of my stuff is already ready So everything's already packed. My tools are all loaded up. I shower, grab my refrigerator food and freezer food that I got the day before. My wife wakes up to help me do this. I power on my truck, load up my fridge, log my pre-trip. It's 150 miles to Fort Polk from here. All state roads, no interstate. So you got to plan accordingly, right? Can't just be like, oh, I'll be there in 3 hours on the money. Well, 2.5 hours or something. It's more like 3.5-ish, 3. Because can't budget time on the state roads like we do on the interstates, right? Boom. So that was 4:30. So all that happened from 4:30 to 5 o'clock. With the explanation of what we do to see what our simple profit per load is going to look like, and see if it's worth doing or not. 5:25 in the morning. I leave out by now, and I enjoy catching the sunrise and getting back on the road. So here we go. 5:30, 6:30, 7:30, 8:30. So it did take me about 3 hours, 3.5 hours. I make it to Fort Polk at 8:30, 9 o'clock. I get checked in by the young soldiers, and I go to the big motor pool. I load my 2 Humvees and 1 trailer, 10 chains, 11 binders, and I'm out of there by 12. There's a couple guys in front of me already, and not so bad considering chains and binders. I don't have a load for Friday yet, so I'm glancing on truckstop.com on auto refresh as I get the chance. So these are hyperlinks inside the content itself, inside the digital book. So these can be clicked on. A lot of these, when you see with the different colors, like this one's like an orange. I think most of the links are in orange. You can click them and it'll take you straight to truckstop.com and all that good stuff, right? So, and I have a headliner right here, and it says "Got to stay vigilant." So I'm keeping my eyes open on the truckstop.com as I'm going, and I'm keeping my eyes on the load board. Especially at this time, the time of this riding. There's certain times where we have to be more competitive when it comes to freight, and sometimes where it's, we don't, where we just pick up the load board whenever we get ready to get a load, and we just book a load. I kind of do it more so like that now, but I still like to be a day or two ahead. $2:30 p.m. So about 175 miles later, I stop at TA in Tallulah, Louisiana, of course. Fuel is $1.90 with my NASTech discount. The pump price was $2.23, so that's 33 cents off per gallon. Not bad. I fill it all the way up, which is 72 gallons. So 72 gallons times 30, like 0.33 for 33 cents. Discount means I saved $23 this fill up. And I go on to say I love saving money, right? I get probably 95% of my fuel from only TA or Petro. I trust their fuel. I get my biggest discounts there, and I prefer the environment, right? Because I didn't write because, but I'm saying because TA Petro tends to attract more experienced, professional, and courteous drivers, right? Just the trend of it, Unlike the Swift truck at Pilot, come on, man, who's been parked at the pump for 30 minutes getting food or taking a shower or something. We don't know what he's doing, but we all know this guy, all right? It could be not just Swift, but any company. I walk inside to get my fuel receipt. I always get my fuel receipts. I do my own IFTA reporting, which is very easy, by the way. And actually, since the time of this writing, I don't even go inside to get my my fuel receipts anymore. I sure don't, because I go to Fleet One. I just do it all on Fleet One now. I do it on Fleet One through NASTech, and it just pulls it automatically. I gotta get a good stretch in. So you can still get receipts. There's nothing wrong with getting receipts, but you can kind of disregard that now, because if you're using NASTech, it's all on Fleet One now. Super simple. Okay. So still right here in the blue, I'm saying that we're on page 17. So I need to keep track of my gallons purchased in each state, and the fuel receipt does this just fine. right? And it does. So it's all interstate from here, I-20 basically all the way across, then I-95. Don't you just love those mostly flat routes? I do. It's so much better on fuel and on the truck, in my opinion. So I have about 4 hours left I can drive, so I plan to stop at TA in Tuscaloosa or at the big L&B Travel Plaza in Livingston, Alabama, exit 17, if I don't have enough time to make it to TA, because I usually drive pretty slow. All right, here in red and big letters I'm still looking for loads at this time and taking calls for my posted truck, because I posted my truck out there on Friday at this time. I don't often post my truck, but sometimes I do. No northeast for me right now due to the huge lack of outbound freight, and Monday is Labor Day. So, dang with an exclamation point. I'll figure it out. Oh, and I snack on some homemade potato salad. Sure did. That was pretty good. Very good, actually. So, here is my load that I took from Fort Polk. I went ahead and took some pictures of it. Here's the Humvee and the trailer. Got it chained down. These chains pulling it forward, so the wheels are kind of like right on the edge, but it's all good. If you've never done flatbed before, if you have done flatbed and hauled different types of commodities, then you probably experienced something like this. But if not, it looks probably more so. But it is pretty tight fit. But these chains pulling them forward, I'm never really worried about hauling them. They ride well. So this is my truck and trailer here, 2000 Volvo, double stacks. This is when I put a new headache rack on since this picture. But I have my tanks polished right here, 2 tanks. Got my step box, quarter fenders, the minimizer quarter fenders. I got cool different decals that I'm upgrading as I go. Promoting different things. 2 toolboxes on each side of spread axle. I got the aerodynamic ones from the Eco Flap from the company out in Tennessee. So got my license plates here, and so that's what's going on. Got my oversized light up there, and I got backup lights right there, so let's keep it moving. Page 19. 6 p.m. I stopped. I had 1 hour of drive time left, but 60 miles to reach TA in Tuscaloosa. It would have been nice to deliver tomorrow and be empty first thing on Friday morning. And why would it be better to go ahead and be empty Friday morning? Well, first of all, this is a big military unit move, like a unit military move. So potentially there's a lot of trucks involved. Even though they leave Fort Polk and go to all different bases, it just sometimes it's hard to tell if there's going to be 10, 15, 20 trucks already there when you get there or not. Sometimes it's not. Or we can ask better questions at the where we pick up to see like where it's going, or call our point of contact and talk to them and get a feel for it if we really need to budget on time. So it takes time to get into the base. Then you just never really know how many trucks will be in front of you, right? So by delivering on Thursday, I had an option to be able to deliver Thursday. That's right. So delivering Thursday would have been really good because I would have been already empty Friday morning for my next load. So that's part of our responsibility in this, in our scheduling is just, whenever we get opportunities to go ahead and get empty early, it's usually wise to go ahead and take them so we can just be already empty the next morning and already, hooking up to a load. And certain great loads have to load at like 7 a.m. or 8 a.m. and they're almost impossible to get if you already have a delivery that morning. So in this situation, by delivering early on Thursday, could have even opened up one of those little opportunities, but let's just continue to read. I would have more time to drive further empty to my next load if need be. It's going to be Friday, and I don't want to get stuck over the weekend without a load, especially on a long Labor Day weekend, right? Definitely don't want to do that. Be stuck somewhere on a Friday, then it's like all of Friday night, Saturday night, Sunday night, and Monday night before you can haul another load. Now, sometimes maybe that's what we want to do. I'll do stuff like that when I want to take the time off. But when we're looking at really efficiently, like you go out for a couple weeks, or especially in the beginning stages, and you really need to be efficient and squeeze out every dollar of profit that you can. don't want to miss out on those Labor Day weekends and sitting there figuring out what to do and running your truck or APU or spending money on a hotel, stuff like that. So I'll deliver Friday early morning like originally planned and aim to be empty by 9 or 10 a.m. if I get there right at 6:30 or 7. So as long as I get done by 9 or 10, I'm still good for Friday for reloading, right? And in bold letters right here, I say this takes initiative. And it does, but it's all good. Initiative is cool. So this will limit my load booking a bit, though. I will not book a load further than 100 or 175 miles away. Why? Because if the unloading goes all the way until 12, I'll still have a 3 or 4 hour drive to pick up my next load before the end of the business day, which is usually around 4 or 5. So I'm not going to book further than 150 miles or 175 because I'm accounting for the possibility that if I get held up down in Fort Bragg until 12 o'clock, I'll still have enough time between 12 o'clock and 5 p.m. or 4 p.m., which is 4 hours, and 4 times 5 is about 200 miles. Within 200 miles, I'm not going to be so out of place. If I get out at like 12 and my deadhead is like 250 miles away, I'm really going to be pushing it. I'm going to have to mad dog my way over there, and I might not make it, which means I dropped the ball and I failed to make a commitment that I scheduled because of just time management. You know what I mean? So with that being said, it'll limit my load booking a little bit down to 150, 175. Because on a Friday, I'll even drive 200 or 250 sometimes on a Friday. If the load is really great and it's like the gross amount is like way up in like in the 4,000 or 5,000 or something, and it's only going like 800 or 900 miles or 1,000 miles. And yeah, but maybe it might pick up further away, and it's like, yeah, I'll go get that for that. So, have my weekend completely, ran efficiently. So, but I'm going to say here, the closer the load picks up, the better, of course, right? Not only will it be less fuel and time used, but it will also dramatically lower my stress level on Friday at this time, right? It'll lower the stress level on Friday. When I make a deal, I hold my end of the bargain. A big part of this scheduling and booking freight, as we'll experience further in the course, is that a big part of this is not to overcommit on schedules and circumstances that are too close in time, right? So I say here, you need to always give yourself some wiggle room, in quotation marks, some wiggle room, and budget your travel times by about 50 to 55 miles per hour. I really don't commit to much more than 500 miles a day. All of this pick up at 9 a.m. on Monday and deliver 1,200 miles away Wednesday at 6 a.m. Yeah, that usually just won't cut it for me. But sometimes in the beginning you gotta do what you gotta do. But still, that's where this comes in, right here in the red. This is when the bad habit or the negative habit of driving 70 plus miles per hour starts. Now, if the load really, really pays, yes, there's room for exception, but there's no way I'm driving 65 plus miles per hour, like consistently and constantly, like pushing it for $2.50 a mile or less. Really, the number needs to be closer to like $4 a mile if I'm really going to rush myself like that and put more wear and tear and vibration on my truck to really get the load there faster. We need to be closer, really beyond 4 sometimes. So I make those judgment calls at the time. This is not really like set in stone stuff, but a good rule of thumb, right? So decent rule of thumb at least. But I don't really like to justify driving, especially 70 miles an hour or faster. It's just, we'll talk about that more and how to drive as an owner operator too. But different takes on that. So I'm here at L&B Travel Plaza in Livingston, Alabama, and it has a pretty great Indian food. Well, I'm gonna take it down to good because I put butter in my food last time. It's okay because I don't eat butter. But anyways, Livingston, Alabama has a pretty good Indian food restaurant too. So I'll order chana masala and research trading stock options for about 2 hours and get about 8 or so hours of sleep. This is all done in that 10-hour block, so I'm using 2 hours just to eat and relax and study trading stock options, and I use those other 8 hours or so to get some sleep. So 5:25 this morning a.m. to 6 p.m. was 12 hours today. Went by pretty fast. After eating inside, I power on my generator and set up my little homemade APU. I read some more and go to sleep. Thursday at 4 a.m. I decided to wake up early again because there still is a slim chance that if I get to Fort Bragg by 4 p.m., though there still is a slim chance that I can get to Fort Bragg by 4 p.m. So I'll take it. And if I don't get there in time, I'll have plenty of time to do whatever I want later today when I stop. So I put up my APU, log a pre-trip, look over the truck, go inside, use the restroom, pour me some cold coffee that I got from my in my fridge from getting my groceries before I left home. Yeah, and I get going. So 7 a.m. I stop at exit 165 on it's called the I-20 truck stop in Lincoln, Alabama. It's not time to fuel yet to get fuel, or if it was, I would have stopped at the TA in Lincoln. But I only need to use the restroom, so I choose the I-20 truck stop because it's on the south side of the interstate, which is just an easy on and off. It's just straight to the right, go in, come right back out. For simple things like using the bathroom, the restroom, 90% of the time I do not cross over the interstate or take truck stops further off the interstate. It's just too much unnecessary fuel and time when you consider the big picture of doing it every day, throughout the whole year. So for restrooms, usually I just prefer rest areas. Those are the easiest on, easiest off. But see, that's what I say right here next. Rest areas are the easiest, quickest, and most economical on and offs, right? The less we use fuel, the less you use fuel in your truck up, the more you profit, right? But it's not that big of a deal. If there's really some food across the interstate or different things, like I'll do that for food, but usually just for the restroom, it has to be very serious if I'm gonna just I just pick somewhere that has a truck stop that's on the same side of the road that on the highway or wherever that I'm on. So there was an added benefit to this stop at I-20 truck stop. I usually don't eat this early in the morning, but they had Vidalia boiled peanuts. This brand can be hard to find outside of Georgia, and I enjoy them so much more than the Peanut Patch brand. All right. So that's my opinion on that, I suppose. So 10 a.m. I'm in Atlanta on the 285 loop, and I get a call saying troops will be active until 8 p.m. tonight, and to come on in and get unloaded. So great, right? My early morning haste has paid off. This will open more opportunities for me tomorrow. They originally would only receive until 4 p.m. and my ETA is 5. 360 miles to go, 6 hours and 17 minutes of drive time. Oh, so I only had that much I could drive anyways, and there's a dang 30-minute break I gotta take. This is one of those exceptions to my normal speed, so I will go 63 to 67 miles per hour now. All right. Then I got a PS here. I don't know what it is with boiled peanuts now that just doesn't sit right with me. LOL. I know it's the MSG and the Peanut Patch brand that gets me, but Vidalia has a more simple ingredient list with no MSG. Oh well, I guess I'll be marking peanuts off my list. I'm back cool with the Vidalia. I don't know what it was that morning, but 11:15 a.m. still. So I stop in TA Madison outside of Atlanta for fuel. I only run on one fuel tank, so I end up getting fuel pretty much every day. It's a personal preference of mine, but it's not something that anyone really has to do. I'll explain it some other time, but I only use one fuel tank. So 512 miles divided by 75 gallons equals 6.8. Right, that's what I was saying earlier. But I took the total miles. I reset it every time, but I take the total miles. I don't always do the MPG, but I always reset my miles traveled per fill up. Yep. So 512 miles. So that's basically when I know when to get fuel. So I get fuel about every 500 miles. I use my fuel gauge too, but I more so look at the numbers. So 512 miles traveled divided by 75 gallons to fill up equals 6.8. Not bad. As you see, I always estimate at 6 miles per gallon, but aim to do better on fuel mileage based off my driving habits. Now I must take my mandatory 30-minute break even though I do not want to. So I use this time to make this certain salad I enjoy making over the road, which is the romaine lettuce, broccoli slaw, 1 avocado, a can of chickpeas, avocado oil as the dressing, right? No dressing, but avocado oil as the lubricator, some Mrs. Dash, and some fresh cracked Himalayan sea salt. So that's the flavor. Boom, boom, boom. I also use this time to search the load board for opportunities. I think I got one that will work fine lined up with Trident. I'll hear back in a few. Let me see. Let me check my recording here. 45 minutes. Okay, let me read some more on this one, and I'll take a short break. 3:55 p.m. because it's about to get even more exciting too now, huh? Page 23. 3:55 p.m. I'm blazing up the road faster than I usually go. This weekend has a lot riding on it because Labor Day makes it a 4-day weekend. I cannot be empty all weekend or doing some lousy load for what, $1,200. That is not good use of a weekend, right? So, especially on a 4-day weekend. I'm taking advantage of delivering early so I can be ready first thing tomorrow for freight. Oh, here we go. Here's an interesting turn of events. So I'm 10 miles from my delivery, right? And I stop at this red light. 10 miles away. My clutch pedal won't go down. So I got written right here, G's, with 4 exclamation points. Now, mind you, I just put a new clutch in about 4 months ago, and I've only put a few miles on it since. So I know it's not my clutch in particular, right? So in bold blue letters, we have, this is where knowing your truck comes in, right? So I know my truck has hydraulic assist, clutch, right? So there's no linkage. It's a fluid line, hydraulic assist, right? It's a master and the slave cylinder top. Master slave is at the bottom by the transmission cylinder with a small reservoir at the top and a hydraulic line for the fluid, right? It's a great system and it's bulletproof for the most part. So I push the clutch pedal down harder to see maybe if it's a fluke, like there's some air trapped in it somehow. The pedal hits the floor now, boom, I have no clutch at all. No resistance, that is. And I'm on a busy 6-lane highway right at a traffic light. So, what can we do, right? So don't panic. Keep cool, put our flashers on, and go ahead and create some space by putting our safety triangles out and get to thinking fast, but moving slow and calculated, right? Let's go on. So now this is a personal opinion of mine from experience, and I go on to say here that I don't like to call cops or local police or anyone right away in these situations because, first of all, I don't even know what's going on. It might be something really small that I could fix very fast. So, but I'll go on because usually the first thing that they want to suggest is what? And eventually they're going to stick to it a lot of times is you need to call a tow truck. Right. Well, tow trucks are expensive, and if I'm going to fix my truck or get it going myself, if at all possible. So, the more tools and spare items that we keep, the higher the chance that we can fix something ourselves and keep more of our hard-earned profit in our possession, in our pocket, in our earnings, right? Plus, calling local police or cops can, in certain situations, even try to write us a ticket or get aggressive with us, even though we're the one in the unpleasant situation. So, if you're leased to a company, you probably definitely want these guys, the police, out of your business, because negative reports like this from police to your company can make us really look like delinquent or like that we don't know what we're doing. especially in certain companies that have a very high safety sensitive culture where, you know, they just overreact to every little thing. Probably not the greatest idea to call them, because I mean, I learned the hard way a lot in my 5 or 6 years with Landstar, that a lot of stuff that I called Landstar about probably didn't even really need to call them about. I should just minded my own business. I made my own life harder at that place a couple times. So, you know, but this definitely more so comes, you know, as you get more advanced and get more tools. But I was doing it like this pretty much from the very beginning. Yeah. So, but if you need help or somebody to help block some roads and stuff right away, or if you need somebody that actually wants to, you know, actually like Mike can actually, you know, have the certain skills to help, call firefighters, right? Call firefighters if anybody. If you know you're polite enough and don't rush them, they'll probably be way more kind and forgiving. Then let them introduce the cops and state police if need be. So, with that being said, back into the situation, I hurry up and get to problem solving ASAP. All right, so here highlighted in the green, when you're the boss, the show is all on you. Will you fumble the ball under pressure? Or will you hold it tight and take the hit? Or even better, break the tackle and keep running. That's what we're aiming to do. Break the tackle and keep running, right? So, I know that the line runs from my driver's side firewall, the master cylinder, down my frame rail to the slave cylinder that is bolted to my transmission on the driver's side as well. This will be my problem area, I'm pretty sure. Somewhere from, you know, cylinder to cylinder, from transmission to my firewall in this line. So I start here. It doesn't take long. I see a puddle of fluid below my transmission area. One reason I chose this truck of mine, which you just saw earlier, right? My 2000 Volvo, my silver, black and red stripe. One reason I chose this truck is because of its simple design and its easy access to almost everything on and under the truck. I don't have full fairings in the way, or exhaust pipes and emission cans, like weed burners, all in the way where I can't even like reach and grab the transmission. It gets really frustrating to work on, you know, in certain conditions like that, when it's just, you know, the fairings, exhaust, emission systems, and it's just, it can be so frustrating to work in those conditions. So, you know, but just depends on, you know, where you are right now. If you're already having one of those trucks, that's fine. You could maybe, you know, just keep it in mind that it does get easier to work on trucks when there's not all that other stuff in the way, and that you know, or maybe if you have a weed burner, you can look into converting it into one that goes up into this, you know, like stacks more, and that'll probably free up more room, different things like that. But if you're still like not even purchasing a truck yet, then just keep these things in mind going in, so you can just go ahead and get you a truck that is going to be a little bit more user friendly, as far as not having too much stuff in the way where like I can, let's just continue, okay? I can literally crouch under my truck and put my hand right over my transmission if need be. All right. I see that I have a tiny hole in my line, but sometimes that's all it takes when it comes to fluids. No brake fluid, because there's brake fluid that runs through that. No brake fluid, there's no working clutch. It's got to have the fluid. So at this point, I'm under the truck and I'm over the transmission, looking at the line and feeling around, moving the line to see exactly where the leak is and to see if I can come up with some type of solution. I burn my arm pretty good on the exhaust pipe behind me. Everything is super hot. So right here in the red, I say be more careful, right, with the exclamation point. I know I got some stuff in my truck that might help, but there's really not much I can do for a steel braided line that's under pressure once it has a hole. I'm not even thinking at that time that once the hydraulic assist, you know, loses its fluid, that the air, once the new fluid gets in, the air has to be bled out before I can even take new fluid. I continue to think, JB Weld, repair tape, JB Weld putty steel. Something, right? It's been about 20 minutes now. I've burnt myself a few times. I do get quite a few nice people in Fayetteville to stop and ask if I need help. A man on a motorcycle spends about 10 minutes with me. This boosts my morale. I'm calm, staying optimistic, but am rapidly searching for solutions. I try repair tape, no good. I try putty steel, no good. I decide on mixing some quick setting JB Weld and hoping it will fill the hole and be good enough to take fluid. I'm not confident in it, but I must do something. I'm not paying a wrecker $800 to haul me 20 miles if I can help it. 9 years at the time of this writing, and I've never been hooked to a wrecker. But I do know a trick to get the truck moving without a clutch, if need be. Just wasn't thinking about it at the time, I guess. So I'm making a lot of calls now. I pull up the app Find Trucker Service, very good app. I talk about it in the technology section of the course. I'm making a lot of phone calls right now. I pull up the app Find Trucker Service. They have a very good collection, a very great collection of all sorts of places when in a pinch. I'm 15 miles from a Volvo dealer, but they don't have the line, and they can't get it until Tuesday. Remember, I still have a load on me, and a load and a customer waiting on me, right? Which is, my brokerage customer. I do make a good connection with Charles. He runs an independent shop called Justice Towing in St. Paul's, North Carolina. Definitely check him out if you need some help or a hand in that area. Justice Towing, St. Paul's, North Carolina. He was very helpful. I called him like 7 times and he picked up every time. What a guy. We make backup plans and he tells me that he'll leave his gate unlocked for me while I'm waiting on the JB Weld. Oh, for me, right? So while I'm waiting on the JB Weld to dry, I'm making a ton of phone calls to find who has my part. All right. So this is just part of the job sometimes, as an owner operator, when we're, running our companies, but it's the initiative. These are the things that we can go, we get it done right, and we can really speed the process up and run it in an efficient business, right? So eventually I find the line that I need, except for where? It's in Greensboro, 100 miles away. Actually further. It was like 150 miles, right? But better that than waiting until Tuesday or Wednesday. So this is where it's kind of like, oh well, we're going to, get that part. We're going to get that part somehow, even if we got to rent a car or something. We're going to pay a little extra money. So the JB Weld dries pretty good. I fill the reservoir back up with brake fluid, and then basically the duh moment comes where I realize, so what, right? It's going to take 2 people to bleed the air out to even be able to use the fluid. All right. So I decided to use the trick to get my truck moving towards the shop. Now, in parentheses, right, as I write this, I should have used this trick right away to move to the side of the road, or even to go ahead and deliver the load. Probably not that one. Yeah, because that would have been really difficult, like backing up and stuff. But hindsight is 20/20 sometimes. Well, yeah, usually always. But it all builds what? Character. So if you're having a bad clutch, broken linkage, or hydraulic assist issue, you can still move your truck. Just be very careful, and I'll tell you how. Just remember, I got the disclaimer. I got the liability thing at the top, but I'll tell you how. Here's how we do it. Okay, this is a very nice trick to do it. I remember in the beginning I used this trick to get my truck all the way home from Miami to Georgia at the time. Yeah. To South Atlanta, all the way to the Peterbilt in Jackson, Georgia. I don't know why I wanted to go all the way up there, but I was just, really young in the business. I probably could have just got it done anywhere in like Central Florida or something like that. But anyways, so here's how we do it. It's right here in the blue. Make sure you have enough air pressure. 80 to 100 psi should be enough. Build your air first if need be. And with your truck off, go ahead and put the truck into your lowest gear possible, either gear 1 or gear 2. Push your brakes in, release your brakes, and you probably keep your foot on the brake a little bit while you're about to go ahead and start power on. But you power on your motor, and when you start your truck, you will go. You will already be in gear, you'll be going. But remember, if you come to a complete stop, you'll have to repeat this whole process. Unless your clutch pedal is good enough to hold your truck back, like if you still got resistance and you can press your clutch pedal down and it'll keep your truck from bucking, then you can just go to a traffic light and keep your truck in gear. Right? But if you have no clutch pedal, like me in this situation, do what you can just to not to stop. You got to time the traffic lights just right. So if you see that it's getting yellow, you just slow all the way down, put it in second gear, and just ride real slow, so that way you can stay in gear, so you don't have to rely on your clutch. So in this case, like I said, I'm at a big intersection. There's too much going on to just wing it, and I know I need a hand for what I'm about to do. So I searched on Apple Maps at the time for fire stations, and there's one 0.3 miles away. Nice. I call them and explain what I need to do. I need to block traffic at the intersection so I can make this big U-turn and head to Charles's shop. And here in big, bold, in the green highlight, I tell them what? At their convenience. All right, just tell them whenever you can. Thank you. And after that gesture, because at that point I'm already just kind of stuck anyway, so there's no sense in rushing anybody. After that gesture, they said they were right on the way and that they'll do it. When they arrive, we talk and they flag a passing police officer down to help. So already it's better that she's invited through other people that she's around and possibly knowing or comfortable. I explain to her the plan and make her feel comfortable and thanked. She calls up state police too, and that's okay. We blocked the 12-lane intersection, right? 6 on both sides. Then you got your other one feeding in. I power my motor on in first gear and instantly start moving, and I make my big, slow U-turn and head the other way. She stays with me for a couple of traffic lights, blocks traffic for me, and does a lot. So thank you. I tell you, respect, confidence, and being a problem solver goes a long way. So I'm parked here at Charles' shop now. We'll see what tomorrow has in store. The closest rental car place is 15 miles away. I need a car so I can get my parts. Then, we can knock it out. Also, I let Austin, my customer / broker for this load of mine, know what was going on inside of an email. So I send him this email and he'll see it first thing in the morning. I tell him I'll contact him in the morning as well. So, that was that. So here's a picture of the email that I sent to Austin. It can be read in here, and I sent him also a screenshot of how close I am, that I'm like right here. I just tell him, hey, I got a delay. I've been working on a solution. I think I'll have it fixed tomorrow. In time to deliver. I'm 15 miles away from delivery, and my hydraulic slave cylinder line popped a hole, and I lost all my fluid, and lost my clutch. Just let them know what's going on, but giving them some rest assured that I'm working on it. So sorry, Austin, I'll be in touch ASAP. And this message is here in the digital book. You can definitely read it. This is the exact message from that day on September 3rd. Right, 7:30 at night. So yeah. All right, let's go some more here. So 7 p.m. Real quick, I'll tell you this. I'm not too sure it was just a hole in my line, though. Remember, the clutch wouldn't go down at all. Then I smashed it down, and then it hit the floor. What if this extreme pressure that I did is what bust the line? But there was maybe some already underlying issue in the master or slave cylinder that caused my pedal to get stuck in the first place. Since this line is so difficult to find, and there's only one in Greensboro, I think it would be wise to go a little further in the repair and make it an investment as well. I think replacing both the master and slave cylinder at the same time, along with the line, would be a wise move for the temporary and for the long run. Because this was my line of thinking at the time. Because if there was a problem prior to the line busting and I put a new line on, I very well might bust it too. Right? So at that time I was thinking, I don't want to go through all this for nothing, to go get a rental car, come all the way back. So I'll just go ahead and spend the extra money to get the master and slave cylinder put on too, and just, you know, have the whole system redone. These are the calculated decisions that you will have to make as you go, right? These are the calculated decisions we all have to make as we go, right? If I bust a new line, then I'm down until mid next week, right? Whole Labor Day weekend, you know. I got my customer all twisted up, paying for another new line, wasted money on a rental, which almost adds up to the cost of what it would take to do it all now at once. So, you know, the extra about $600 I was going to spend on these cylinders is about how much it would cost to go back and buy another line, rent cars again, do all that. So I was like, you know what, let me just go ahead and do it now up front, right? Pick your poison, I guess, is what they say. But I tend to favor the side of longevity and the long run. I'm guessing the master and slave cylinder will run about $300 to $400 each. The line is $85. And by doing this, cylinders will probably add about another $150, $250 in labor. They're pretty simple and straightforward, pretty much bolt on and go. I've never worked on a hydraulic assist myself, so this will be an opportunity for me to watch, help out, and also take notes. The main thing I need to go to the shop for is to bleed the air out of my clutch line, right? See, because the clutch line is just, you know, it's just with a wrench, like wrench on, or, you know, wrench the old one off, wrench on, you know, run it, zip tie it down, make sure it's good and not pinching anywhere. Zip tie it to me, wrench on down it again, but then you have to fill it up with new fluids and bleed it, right? So that's the main thing I need to go to the shop for, is to bleed the air out of the clutch line. I need to watch and learn this method, right? More to come tomorrow. And I got the ZZZ. So Friday morning, here we go, 7 a.m. Charles comes and we check my throwout bearing down below. There's still a gap between my throwout bearing and my stop brake. Perfect. My clutch is good. You can check this by looking up through the inspection plate underneath the transmission. If you have the inspection plate, it's usually held on by like a bolt or two. You'd have to take those two bolts down and look up into where, you know, where you took the plate off, and you should see a gap between the piece that moves when you touch it, like the little stop brake, that's connected to the clutch itself, and the piece that's connected to the clutch itself, which is like throwout bearing. So you just want to be able to move it and have like a little gap. You know, you see like a little tiny of a gap in between it, so you know that your throwout bearing is good too, and it hasn't, like, I guess, maxed out or something. So he's 99% sure the line collapsed and has nothing to do with the master and slave cylinder. 99%, right? It's pretty big, bold. So let me check this recording. How long is this? Okay, I'm at the hour and 10 mark. I'm going to take a quick break, and we're going to get right back into this story.